In the Godfather movie, I remember Corleone, what his name was, he said, don't let anyone know what you're thinking. And in spirituality, that's a prerequisite for living in this world. You're illumined, you're spiritual, and yet you have to communicate with all kinds of different people. And so not letting anyone know what you're thinking that's a way of saying it, but it's much deeper than that, because you should have no thought within you and when you're communicating with people. And you need to communicate with people because you're born to teach. All of us who are spiritual are here for a reason. We're a volunteer spiritual army out of compassionate reasons to end this whole thing. And it really is infinitesimal, it is nothing, the world. But when you're here, it's rough being here if you have to address it as though it is here when it's not here. So you learn to communicate with people. Like my buddy here has a deep spirituality, but he's not connected to his everyday self with it. So you have to train yourself to attenuate your senses to what's around us in the world. In India, when I was there, if someone would feel great spiritual, whatever, then they would send the person off in a little hut somewhere and have a young nun or someone come by and bring them some food every few hours or tea or whatever. Because they're so sensitive, you have these illumination experiences, you can hardly breathe or think. It's falling in love with God. It's wonderful. But living in the world requires that we communicate with people. Throughout history, the spiritual people they're cut off from the world. You find a little apartment somewhere, a little hovel, a little whatever it is, a hut, or you simply just grin and bear it. You're like the martyrs, because we are all martyrs being here. It's not fun, it's not a happy place. It drains the finenesses of our senses when you're here, because you're attenuated to godness, to a purity, a wonder, a decency, a kindness. These are the like antenna of being aware of God, just that delicate, but the reality of it is enormous. You literally can't be here when you're spiritual. So we have to train our senses to not react to people, to listen to people, to be there for people. I say listen to everything within them. Everyone in the world has a case. You know, whether it's a doctor or a lawyer or whatever, you have a case, that's your, and they're all the same. If you deal with them logically and non-evaluative, you're there for the person. What's your case? You see what I'm saying? And you very quietly are there with them without reacting. It's like never let anyone know what you're thinking. And so whether you're helping someone or simply communicating with someone in any circumstance in your life, as my buddy needs to learn, is to just be quietly there and not try to make it out of yourself, make a story and react back. It just, if you're very quiet and you're there for others, they'll feel free to let go of whatever their need is, or want, or desire, or pain, or they won't react to you and throw their stuff on you. Because most people are incredibly intrusive. And it doesn't have to mean belligerent, it can be with their sadness, with whatever. All the spiritual people I know, they don't put it on anyone else's doorstep. And that will always show you who the spiritual person in your life is. Your mom, who lives with the grief of raising all the children, but you never know anything but love and kindness and being taken care of, well, that's a martyr. The same as whoever might have hung on a cross whenever. The point is, you can be completely quiet, unmoved by any circumstance of the height or depth of human experience. Get there through prayer. This is a discipline outside of prayer, but identical to prayer. Because when you're aware of God, and I'm talking about people who are aware of God, training their senses to be with others. You can tell if someone's with you or not, right? I love Greg or Pedro Mink, my jiu-jitsu teacher. We got a buddy Andrew here, or Andre, who's another martial arts teacher, and they're completely quiet and calm and spiritual inside. Otherwise, I would have no interest, so I call them all professor, because it used to be if you're 8th degree, it's professor. Now these guys are just so good early on that they deserve that term. You treat them with respect. And there's a whole ritual with it. Bow on the mat, bow to one another. And so it's a spiritual discipline. So do this with everyone that you meet. I was with a Marine Corps colonel's buddy many years ago. We traveled, and so anyway, he always, I would say, why do people, wherever we went in the world, people would like have an instant friendship and rapport with him. And I said, how the hell do you do that? And he simply said, the God in me greets the God in thee, in his mind. And he's a tough guy. It was like, okay, and it worked for him all the time, every once, because he truly, sincerely, like I mentioned, my buddy Kobahito, the samurai, he has that without ever having to say it. It just has this quiet heart. And this has nothing to do with martial arts or Marine Corps. It has to do with wonderful people. And they can be, I happen to be in a gym, so that's what's here. Wonderful people. So if you're a wonderful people, if you understand what's being said about God and Godness, well, you're already there. But living in the world has always been the ordeal for all of us who are spiritual. This is throughout history. So don't let them know you're this, you're that, you're the other. Just be a little circumspect in answering questions. In other words, don't involve yourself, because you have these very fine sensibilities, don't you? Don't you? And you can't even share it with anyone, except now and then you fall in love, or you have a dear friend you can talk to late in the evening, and that's wonderful. Or you can relate to a child with that pure love and with that innocence, and it takes the whole world away, doesn't it? So find a way to take the whole world away and to keep it away by employing some of these non-evaluative communication techniques. It's just having a big open heart and training yourself not to react to the questioning, the obtrusiveness, the negligence of others, and know that you're not going to do that to anyone. You're not going to put your stuff on anyone else's doorstep. And that says you're spiritual. You're not here to harm, to do no harm, right? I'm saying this is the encasement of our human psyche while we're here, because all human beings who have been spiritual throughout history have suffered every day of their lives being here. So if we involve ourselves with some of these communication techniques within ourselves, never let anyone know what you're thinking, just be there for them quietly when you're with people. Otherwise, people will come up to you and your ears melt. I'm at a gym and some people are demand your attention, and they talk about anything, and they demand that you be with them in this, like the world is real and they're in this room and this is this and that's that. Or did you see the game? And your ears are melting because they're intentionally, they don't know they're an instrument of Satan, and that's what they are. Of the dark force that keeps you from just floating through this experience and throwing rose petals on those you find worthy, on other spiritual people, that is, and helping them protect themselves. Because it's a rough road we hoe here, isn't it? The finenesses of our sensibilities are disrupted or beaten to just pummeled in most communications with other people. So if you learn to be quiet, to listen, to not make a story about yourself, to not turn it back and try to make it exciting and talk about yourself, but to be there very quietly, then the other person will let it go, and you keep going on, and it's like it never happened, and at the end of the day, you're not wasted. When you go home on your chair to sit down and meditate in the evening, you flow right into it. You don't have to spend the first 5 or 20 minutes letting go of the drudgery of the day. There is a God. You are God's instrument. You're not meant to be harmed, pummeled, whatever words you want to use. And you don't have to work hard to ingratiate yourself into others. You use these techniques of not reacting to any of it, and never let anyone know what you're thinking, and you'll reside in this very, very quiet place of unimaginable purity and simplicity. A place of quietude beyond the whole world. It's not just that it's a pristine and calm atmosphere, there's something to it that's so wonderful. You'll feel the body of your own soul, which is God. There's nothing separate. It's one beingness. It's unimaginable beauty and purity. And it's you. So if you're very quiet, don't react to your own thoughts, let alone the words or communications of others. I'm talking about under great duress also. Then the whole world is gone. And then you have something to give to your spiritual friends. Not just sharing a vision you had in 1992 or last week, or you saw something or felt someone that's out of body. No, forget all that. This is transcendent of all that. Everyone in the world is psychic to one another, and that's the opposite of spirituality. Let that go, please, for your own sake. Be sensitive to this higher atmosphere, and you'll be aware of the dearly departed who are spiritual, who've learned their lessons, and those that have always been here. Because 100 trillion% of the real people you meet, the angelic presences, have never been here. This does not exist. This is a infinitesimal particle. I never have words to express how empty and how devoid of reality this world is. It's a child's illusion. Watch my fingers. It's the whole world. That's all it is to us, to we who are spiritual. There never was a world. There never was a devil. There never was pain or structure or purpose or things or not things. There's only God. There's only you. It's very simple to understand everything. You just quiet yourself and don't believe you're Jane or Arnold or John. Doesn't matter. There's an isness. It's so quiet and wonderful. It's as sound as the ocean floor. It's called illumination. But don't call it anything. Don't think about it. Don't even sense it or know it or believe in it. It just is. That's the real you. You are a spiritual presence. You're uncircumscribed by anything. It's just a pure, simple innocence of being. It's nice. This presence is our spirit. It is our heart and soul. It's very kind, like a young mother's eyes. You're here to excel in your spiritual disciplines by training yourself not to react to anything in the world under any circumstance. And then when you deal with very dangerous, dark souls, you won't have to deal with very dangerous dark souls. You know what I'm saying? There's you'll do combat with very scary beings, but if you train yourself not to react to anything, when that comes upon you, it's gone in a whisper. I'm saying these things because the tools that are trying to be expressed now are what's needed. They've always been needed. Somehow I've discovered them. And I want to express them. For you, for me, mostly for him. Don't give it anything. Never let anyone know what you're thinking, and that's not hiding, because there's nothing inside you except this simple purity and quietude of your awareness of God. There's nothing else to do or think or dream or evaluate or consider. And all the words of the world, the theology, everything, it's all, if you're going to meet the actual God, all these thoughts about your aspirations in the world, or don't use the word God, or what, it's so much more than that when you see the actual God. Because everything God's supposed to be, God actually is. And being God, God gives everything that God is to us. And it's much further than that. It simply is. And there's no thought of God and you. It's just this, God gets more and more invisible. This is the truth of it. More and more subtle. The instant you awaken, there'll be oceans of presence. But if you're in a world like this, you won't leave it as it is. You will transform it. It only take one wide awake soul to see what's needed. You are that one wide awake soul. You see what's needed. Don't give or take from it. Be quiet inside. Be there for those that are worth it, and the others, you just keeps the day going, keeps it rolling. You're like a stone that tumbled together until it gets very smooth. But all you have to do is think it. I'm not going to react to anything, and very quiet inside yourself. You can spend the day around idiots, and rather than what we normally feel as sensitive beings, it just drags on you. You can go to a group of people, it doesn't matter what the circumstance is, and at the end of it, it's kind of tiring, because you're just a free soul. In fact, most of the time it's gruesome, isn't it? For we who are sensitive. So if you train yourself not to react, to acknowledge others' thoughts or reality, oh, thank you, and then keep going, and you'll weigh that all the time, then you'll develop your own process of communication with other people that will keep you safe from the world. And so as soon as you're with the next person that's spiritual, or the next circumstance, you can address it fully and give your complete self to it, meaning your soul, meaning God, meaning eternity, meaning you're enlightened, you're illumined, you're spiritual, you're a divine presence and being, you are a blessing to this age. With that, we never think that we're the blessing to this age. We're not reacting to any of it. We never leave. our humble abode, our pure heart, our kind sensibilities. When you confront the devil, it's everything that appears to be is what the devil is. If I say it's a lost being, that's giving it so much more than it deserves. It's nothingness. I could have my friends, the teachers, look out through my eyes, and you try this at home. And it's thousands of times more subtle than the eyes that you have in this world that think anything of the world exists. You understand? You're deconditioned in a moment. You don't have to give it anything. You don't have to be anything. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't need to do anything to know Him, the only God. And you, His very best friend. And when you quiet yourself, you'll feel Him from time to time, and He'll speak to you. And when He does, it's as though you're the only person in the world, because to God, in this higher sense, you are the only person in the world. And you'll learn over a few short weeks, months, a couple years, to retain that purity, that innocence. To not react to others, to not let them know what you think, because you really don't think. And when you do, it's a higher agency. There's nothing wrong with you. There's everything right with you. When you speak to the holy ones late at night, or a spiritual friend or a parent who may have left already, you'll feel them in their pristine state. There are many people that helped you along the way. They were in the grip of this horrible atmosphere of this world, the gravity of it. And remember who they were and what they tried to do to communicate. And remember the freshness and the cleanliness of that communication, of that heartfelt love. And thank them for their part in keeping you going. It could be 8 beautiful souls, 90, or 4. There are so many in my life that I love more than God, more than myself, more than life. They're just, I realized they did everything they could to keep me afloat while I'm here. So I'll gladly hang on a cross for my friends that I realize what they gave to try to communicate to me at a very special point in my life, what they did communicate, and the selflessness of it. And beyond that, but I can't say beyond that, because the purity of that heart is God's heart. It's one big, beautiful, museum quality painting. God calls it your life. Thank you for giving everything that you have to it. You know exactly what's being said. Thank those that have helped you. Feel their presence with you. It won't be the presence of what you did together. It'll be the same presence you feel of God. We're all one presence. It's a magnificent tapestry of love and kindness and purity. It's a magnificent tapestry of you, who gave your place up in heaven to be here, to help, to assist the people that are here, to pull them out of the last burning embers of disbelief and faithlessness. It's your destiny. Thank you. Thank you for listening.